how's it going YouTube? Right now I'm playing this video here of my latest high score, pretty much, if you could consider a simulacrum splinters, and it is higher than the last video's number. But the focus of today's video is going to be pretty anticipated. A lot of people ask me this question on stream, is how much is your aura stacker worth? And I think a lot of people would be pretty interested in the cost breakdown of probably the most expensive build in the league, which is an aura stacker. I'm not really sure what build costs more, and I think there are people with better gear than me, and actually I know there are people with better gear than me. But I wanted to do this and just tab you down like how much all the gear costs so I can have a pretty good answer for when people ask me. And wow, I got 268 splinters here, new record, all without using any crazy scarabs, all rusted scarabs, right? So I'm very happy with that. I was trying to get for 300, but I want the 300 to come organically and not with like some cheese with prophecies, but I believe it's possible. Right now here, I'm showcasing something that's known as every time you reach the blue mob. Actually, I could just show you in the game right now. This is a strategy that I pretty much adopted, so I'm going to tell it to you at the beginning right now. Is that you see this here, area contains 40 additional packs of hunter monsters, right? So what we want to do is we want to take out the watchstones, put in the regular ones, and then sack it. Sack 2 maps. So you can just take any of your maps. You can just run through it real fast, or you can just kill a few mobs at the start and get out of the map. And I don't really know what it takes to progress to the Atlas bonus. I think before you only have to kill a few mobs, but I think now you might have to kill the boss. So I think it is worth running through it, because if you just do it and get 40 additional packs, it pretty much means that every single delirium thing you do will pretty much be guaranteed to have like 200 plus splinters pretty much. The Conqueror bonus is probably the most important part, and then the next part is the Blight placement. But that's not going to be the focus of today's video. I will make another video probably tomorrow explaining in depth the strategy, because I think I've pretty much like perfected the farm and how to make it as efficient as possible while spending as little as possible on the initial investment. So anyone can pretty much do this strategy. These stones really are not that expensive, and I'll explain it to you all in the next video. But today's video again is I'm going to go over the gear overview, and then I'm going to showcase, and I'm going to go over the gear cost breakdown. Now I'll showcase the Uber Elder kill that I did as part of the Feared. The Feared is pretty hard to do Deathless still, purely because Leap Slam is a horrendous skill, and you can see it in Uber Elder. It is disgusting. But let's go with the gear overview. For the gear overview, we have the Nebulous that I haven't been able to change. So pretty much the only piece of gear I got that was different that you saw from last video is this shield. Now this shield is a nightmare to get. Grants level 23 Grace, 4% reduced damage taken from projectiles. That's not exactly the best mod ever, but it's something, right? It's a double implicit. Now what this allows us to do is grants level 23 Grace means we no longer need to have the Grace gem. So my Grace gem is actually just sitting in my stash tab, ready for sale, ready to find a new home. But what does this mean, right? It means that we no longer have access to Vol Grace anymore, which is actually a pretty big bummer, because Vol Grace is extremely good for surviving. But my philosophy is that once you get good enough gear, you won't need Vol Grace. So it kind of sucks to lose Vol Grace, because it really does make us immortal for that 8 to 10 seconds, because we get max spell block and spell dodge, or spell dodge and attack dodge. So what do we gain from losing that Vol Grace? What we gain is we can put Empower. So I bought a level 3 Empower. A lot of people will be wondering, why aren't you using a level 4 Empower? Well, I can show you why I'm not using a level 4 Empower. GGG has decided that Empower is going to be the ultimate chase item. Not Headhunter, not anything else, but this. A 7.7x gem. Well, 7.7x is pretty cheap. This guy will probably get spammed, but yeah, it's a 9 Exalt gem. It's not very cool, but it is what it is, right? So that's actually my next upgrade. I'm going to get a level 4 Empower, and then I'm going to get the helmet. Now, I did buy one of the components for the helmet craft, which is this. So you want to Awaken Orb something together. I will be going over the crafting method tomorrow, because I will be crafting the helmet tomorrow. So it'd be pretty exciting. The helm is really easy to craft. There's really no way to fail it. So I'm going to make a helm. I have the hard part done, which is the gambling part of this part. So the next part is easy, and hopefully I have enough currency to craft it. All my currency is in 13 simulacrums, and that's what I farmed tonight. So it's pretty good. Now simulacrums are kind of going down in price, right? It's at 1.1x, 1.2. So it'll be interesting to see what it goes to. Maybe it'll crash, maybe it'll stay the same. But like I said, spent the whole day trying to buy the Gray Shield. Now the Gray Shield is also something of note because some items just do not exist in this league. And I did go on about it, about how hard it is to actually buy any like really unique items in this game that is not extremely overpriced. Like if you look at the Call of the Brotherhood Implicit Aura, people are trying to sell this for 66, 70 exalts. Like maybe it will sell at that price, maybe it won't. But maybe these people won't have anyone to buy it. But there might be people who are desperate enough to buy it, and that just drives the cost of this build up to insanity levels. I think like 66 exalts is nearly half a mirror, so you're pretty much paying half a mirror for an implicit. But getting the shield is a huge sigh of relief because it allows me to run the, the aura, and not have to worry about how am I going to get a gem socket for empower. So next step is if I could possibly drop either, if I could get a hatred Call of the Brotherhood, it would be the best thing ever because it would let me use like fortify on leap slam, which would increase my survivability a lot. I could also use left click molten shell or left click steel skin. Or I could throw in another aura for Dread Banner. So having another gem socket is absolutely huge. But next step is going to be making a rare helm and then rare boots. I have amended what I said before, and I think the best upgrade path is to get Hands of the High Templar into helm into boots, and that's what it used to be. Now the main thing is replacing Malagaros is kind of hard, and you have to get a lot of multi-arm modules. But I only have single multi-arm modules. So my gear, I don't have any double multi-arm modules. And that's another thing, right? Double multi-arm modules are just absurdly overpriced this league. I do not know what's going on. There's none for sale actually. So if I actually looked at this search online only, I wouldn't find one item for sale. And that's just the sad state of this league. Maybe I have to corrupt everything myself. But if you find yourself having problems with mana, one way of cheating it is to use something like this. Sublime Form. So what this does is it reduces the cost of your grace. So you can see my grace only reserves 4.5% mana, which is actually a tiny amount. And that's what it actually allows me to run like more jewels that aren't RMR. So like if you look at these two, I'm actually running 2 non-RMR jewels. Now the reason I'm running these is because I get double crit multi and prod speed, and it's actually very, very good. And yeah, some of this stuff, the gear is getting expensive. Purely because there's no one playing Expedition League, and it's just sad. I'm actually very kind of like, because I really enjoy the league. Like I do not think the league is bad. I don't think the league mechanic is bad. I don't even think the logbooks are bad. I think the Delirium Mirror really carries the league. But what really kills the league, in my opinion, is this. Every time I see this, it just makes me sad. So I go to Steam charts. There's 29,000 people playing, 50,000 peak. Like, no wonder there's no items. There's no one playing the game. The economy is completely screwed. People are price fixing the items. It's just an unenjoyable experience, but I still love the game. I still love the league, and I believe it will. I think they're buffing Gwennon's chance to get the headhunter, so I'm pretty sure that will lead to a 100% influx of players into the game, but yeah. So now I wanted to go over the main part of this video, which is, which is the cost breakdown of this build. So I actually wrote it all down, right? So I wanted to figure out how much does my gear actually cost, and I think this puts it at around one of the most expensive builds or gear sets in the game. My gear is by far nowhere near the best. There's people who either got luckier than me or who just have more currency because they play more, they have a better currency farming method than me, or they play in a group or something like that, yada yada yada. But the cost of the gear is actually surprisingly expensive. I do tell my chat a lot that my gear is like 50, 80x. But it turns out that inflation is a bitch. And that the gear actually costs a lot more. And I try to estimate it as best as I could. So we have the Nebulous. Now my Nebulous is really nothing special, right? It's just a double damage Nebulous. So maybe I can do it and showcase like the gear. So let's go look at my gear. I mean, you guys see it every day, right? So Nebulous, not really that much of a big deal. This Nebulous does cost around 2x because crit chance for spells is pretty good. And the roll is not too bad. And spell damage per dex is actually not a dead mod at all. So that's actually 2 exalts right there. Prism Guardian, I bought this with the Grace implicit. This actually ends up costing 17 exalts. That's how much I bought it for. Right now, I don't even know if you can buy it for 17 exalts, so maybe that's actually considered cheap. Call of the Brotherhood Wrath Aura. I bought this from someone for 25 exalts. Right now, that's actually probably considered cheap, as I see them going for 40 to 50 to 60 exalts, but I'm pretty much just going based on what I bought it for and what I think is actually going to be a fair price for it. Call of the Brotherhood Fire Damage to Spells. I bought it for 2 exalts. This is probably about right for the price. Alpha's Howl, 0.5 exalts. This is probably actually a little bit over, as my Alpha's Howl is literally nothing special, right? It's literally just zealotry reduction. There's nothing to it. I guess the best part about it is it's actually 3 off colors, but anyone can pretty much do that. So let's go on to the next one. Headhunter is 85 exalts. And that's pretty much just the going rate of the Headhunter. It hasn't really gone up that much in price, even though it's very, very good for delirium farming, but I don't think the people have the money to afford item that much. So it's pretty much been stuck around at 85 exalts. Voidwalker, it was 0.5 exalts. Mine was a little bit more expensive because it got the 16% attack and cast speed enchant. Hands of the High Templar, mine are +4 LE weakness, so it's +1, +2. But +1 is pretty much +2 because of Empower, and everyone uses Empower. And then as LE weakness, and LE weakness is the curse that gets applied. Now, I did buy this pair of gloves for 4 exalts, but I think the reason I was able to get it for 4 exalts was because the person didn't know that LE weakness was actually the curse that gets applied. So I put 12 exalts because that's actually the fair price and what people will be able to buy it for now. So I didn't want to include prices of stuff that I actually sniped at and I felt was unfair. So Shav's 6 link is 6 exalts. This item is very consistent in price. Synthesis Amulet. So the Synthesis Amulet, I bought it for I think 6 or 7 exalts for the base, and then I spent 2 exalts rolling it with the crafted mod, multi-mod. Then I spent like what exalts worth of essences to get the crit multi-roll. So that's why I estimated it at around 10 exalts. So overall, all the gear is 160 exalts. And yeah, a large chunk of it is the Headhunter, but even without the Headhunter, the gear is still around 80 exalts, right? And that's just the gear. So let's move on to the jewels. So you might be like, oh, the gear is not too bad, right? But the jewels, and this is probably like a somewhat low estimate on some of them. Actually, I overestimated a lot of them just to make it more realistic. So I have 3x first amount replenishing medium clusters. Now these are pretty much just staples of the build, and they're like 1x each. So you get 3 exalts. Yeah, you can get them for a little cheaper than 1 exalt, but you generally want to look for ones with good suffixes. So mine, if you look at mine right now, I have the suffix of what's it called, like Chaos Res, some Chaos Res. So Chaos Res is pretty much the name of the game. So this is some more Chaos Res, and this one's also Chaos Res. So I pretty much prioritize Chaos Res. You can also prioritize Life Regen, which is also very, very strong. So then we have 2x Purposeful Harbinger, FAE, or RP. So what this means is you have Purposeful Harbinger, and then you have the other notable being First Among Equals or Replenishing Presence, and I have 2 of these. And these run around 3 exalts each. I price checked it on Awaken PoE Trade, and that's just what they go for. I did buy these at 1x a pop at the start of the league, but that was a long time ago. Now Voices 5 passive is 5 exalts, and then I have 2x 35% ES plus Chaos Res jewels, and these are 10 exalts each roughly, and that's 20 exalts. So these are the jewels that you use to fix your ES problems in Chaos Res. So this one is 35% effect, 8 ES, and 5 int, and 3 Chaos Res. So pretty much each node gives you 10 ES, 4 Chaos Res, 4% affected non-curse auras, and 6 int. So this huge cluster here gives us all our ES and Chaos Res. And we have another one here, which is pretty much identical. So this whole cluster gives us 30% Chaos Res. So if you actually look at my resist, it's at 46% Chaos Res. So now we move on to Transcendent Flesh. This is 1.5 exalts. It's just a pretty cheap quad multi-jewel almost. Might of the Meat Corrupted Blood, 2 exalts. I can't afford the RMR one. It's like 12, 15 exalts. Intuitive Leap is non-RMR, so it's 0.5 exalts. RMR is probably like 20, 30 exalts or something now. Conqueror's Efficiency, RMR 1.5 exalts. Pure Talent, RMR 9 exalts. This is one of the jewels I bought for 1 exalt, but it seems like it just skyrockets in price because it's a low demand or low supply. So this one is extremely expensive. It's probably one of the better buys that I had throughout the league. And then next we have Hazardous Research, which is 2 exalts. So when jewels like this are this expensive, you know the league is in trouble, right? This is a jewel that's historically been like 20 or 30 chaos throughout the league. But because no one's playing the game and no one's leveling up and getting the jewel from the quest reward, no one has it to corrupt, right? So that's why it's 2 exalts, and that's how you know the league is in huge trouble. Unnatural Instinct RMR, right? So let's see how much this is. So this is around like 12 exalts, right? Exactly what I said. So this one is another jewel I bought for 3 exalts at league start. So you can see the 2 big money makers in terms of actual increasing in value was Unnatural Instinct and Pure Talent. Vengeful Commander Snowstorm is 4 exalts, and this is a 3x notable 8 passive point one. Blast Freeze Disorienting Display, another large cluster, is 3 exalts. And a Hatred Crit Watcher's Eye is 12 exalts. I did buy this yesterday. It does also have immunity to shock, so that's also a really good thing. So that actually costs around 12 exalts. And then these are just the Cobalt jewels I use to fill out my sockets. So I have 2x reduced mana reserve multi plus proj speed. What this means is that it has 1 crit multi mod and then 1 proj speed mod, and it costs 1 exalt. And then I have 2 with double multi and then proj speed but no RMR, and those also cost around 1 exalt each. So if you add this all up, this is actually 85.5 exalts. So the gear is extremely expensive. So you can see the gear is pretty much equal to the price of the jewels, which is pretty surprising. Now, there are some items that actually make up the bulk of the cost. Like the Call of the Brotherhood here, you do not need to play with, right? You also don't need a Synthesis Amulet of this quality. You don't need a Hands of the High Templar of that quality. So if you take out those, that's already 22. Plus 25, which is 47 exalts. So that's around like 40 exalts. Oh yeah, you also don't need this thing, right? You don't need a Prison Guardian of Grace at the start. So if you take it out, you can see you can get the gear all together for like 30 to 40 exalts for just the gear. Or 30 exalts, and then you have to factor in the jewels, right? The jewels are a big problem. So the jewels, these jewels are all mandatory. This one's mandatory, this one's mandatory. You can go over 7 passive point voices. These you can replace with just more first amount replenishings, but your ES is going to be a lot lower. And then Transcendent Flesh is you probably would not use if you're using Malagaros at the start. This one you don't really need yet. Conqueror's Efficiency you should buy. Pure Talent is definitely not worth it at 9 exalts. Hazardous Research, if you're playing Spark, you definitely need it. Unnatural Instinct, you don't really need it. These ones you kind of want, but not 100% needed because you could go with a worse notables. Hatred Crit Watcher's Eye you don't need. You could use a Wrath Crit Watcher's Eye, which would be that 1 exalt. And these jewels you probably want, right? So you can see overall that you could make it a lot cheaper, but if you wanted to like min-max the character, or not, this is not even fully min-maxed, right? If you wanted to have like pretty good gear in every single slot, because there's so many items in this build and jewels, it adds up to an enormous cost. So what's the total cost, you say? Added it all up is 245 exalts, which is like 1.5 mirrors, because the mirror is around 160 exalts. So without the headhunter, it's like the mirror is 130 exalts, so it's nearly 2 mirrors in cost. And without the headhunter, it's 160 exalts, so it's slightly over 1 mirror. So that's pretty much the cost breakdown of the build. I do think this is probably one of the most expensive builds in Expedition League, just because of the sheer vast amount of items. Oh, I forgot about flasks. Well, flasks, well, you can pretty much just add like 10 exalts for the Bottle of Faith, and all this other stuff is like whatever, right? So 10 exalts and flasks. So let's not forget about the flask, right? So this section should be flasks. Pretty much Bottle Faith, right? And this is like 10 exalts. And then like rolling flasks with Instilling Ore, probably just another 1 exalt, another miscellaneous. So you can pretty much say that grand total is actually what, like 256.5 exalts. So very expensive build. Is it worth it? Yeah, it's by far the best build in the game. Probably the best for doing the tropical island farming. It's the most fun, it's the most versatile, and it's relatively tanky once you get all your defenses sorted out. But in the beginning, it's really not that tanky, and you really need the full investment, and every single bit scales it. But look how many potential upgrades you can have. The sky is the limit. But before you start to play this build, people ask me, can I swap earlier? The answer is that you need every single one of these pieces of gear, not like of the same quality or the same exact one, but you actually need every single item. You need all the jewels or a substitute of it, or you need all of the pieces of gear. There's no like substituting in some random item. But anyhow, I hope that helps everyone understand the cost of my build. I know it's a little extreme and I didn't even know it was cost that much, but now when people ask me on stream, I have an accurate answer.
So you wanna go to war with me? You're talking like you think you're royalty. You think that I'm afraid, but I don't break. I heard you question my stability. You think I'll fall just like a guillotine, but I am here to stay. Won't look away. The storm is coming, so you better start running. No, you can't control, feel it in my bones. I'm coming for the, coming for the. I'm coming for the throne. I'm coming for the throne. So you wanna be my enemy? You should've known I'd never kiss the rain. Ice runs in my veins, won't play it safe. I don't belong with your nobility. Who died and made you king of anything? You think that I'm insane? It's your mistake. Kingdoms rise and fall. I've come to take it all. I'll take it. I've come to take it. Kingdoms rise and fall. I've come to take it all. I'll take it all. The storm is coming, so you better start running. No, you can't control, feel it in my bones. I'm coming for the, coming for the. I'm coming for the throne.
Well, I just played like a Uber Elder kill, and it was Deathless, but you can definitely see the limitations of Leap Slam. A lot of people say, why use Leap Slam, right? Leap Slam is just so bad. Well, Leap Slam is the only ability that doesn't have a super short cooldown. So the way you can do it to make Leap Slam work is you want to put Leap Slam in the Nebulous. You want to get a white socket on the Nebulous, and then after you do that, you want to be able to swap in Flame Dash. And with just Flame Dash alone, you can do most bosses and it should be really smooth. Now the big problem with that is that Flame Dash cooldown is a lot shorter than before, or a lot longer than before, so you can't really spam Flame Dash as often, so that's something to keep in mind. Another thing is also Flame Dash comes out so fast compared to Leap Slam. Like Leap Slam is fast, but Flame Dash is instant. So when sometimes you Flame Dash out of something and into something else because you don't expect the ability to come out that fast. But tip for bossing, definitely try to not use Leap Slam and use Flame Dash. It is miles better for bossing. You just have to get used to it again. But you can see that you can do most of the bosses deathless once you get enough gear. 4.5k ES should be like a god level where you just won't die anymore. So you can even see here I have 11% XP. I will be trying to level up in Tropicals to 100 and just doing Delirium stuff because it's actually kind of fun, not just doing 5 ways the whole time and actually having some progression with XP. But that's going to be my goal for the league. Get this character fully geared out, best in slot pieces, and 100 naturally, and then I'm going to swap over to Spectral Shield Throw. But anyhow, that's going to be it for me, everyone. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned a lot or got the burning question answered about what's actually the cost breakdown of the most expensive build in the league. But thank you everyone for watching, and I hope you find more mirrors and exalts than I do, and see you next time. Bye.